Mr. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. And just so that we're on the same page as far as the record, we just listened to and watched a portion of the interview from timestamps 1 hour, 1 minute, 20 second through 1 hour, 26 minutes and 58 seconds. In the beginning of this portion of the interview, you asked the defendant to describe that fire in the basement. Do you remember that?
Yes.
She gives you some extraneous information there, specifically like Kobe Bryant. Was it consistent that when you would start getting into particular points of interest as it relates to the alleged crimes here, that she would give these extraneous details?
Yes, and that was consistent through the phone calls as well.
From your perspective, was that another distraction attempt to sort of create these tangents off of the main path of what you're trying to drive towards?
Yes.
Cell phones, please.
Apparently the cell phone wants me to repeat it, Judge. I don't know.
That's your whoever.
You had asked about details about this fire in this particular portion in like color of flame, those height of the flames. Why were you asking those questions?
Well, as I explained before the video, the candle was a significant incident. She had been talking about that since February 13th that I came on, that Gannon sustained serious burns from that caused him even to bleed. And I wanted to see how she described not only the candle, but the fire itself and how he was injured.
What was your perspective of that, either reluctance or unwillingness to share details of the fire, the colors of the flames, the height of the flames? Why is that potentially significant to you in this interview?
Well, I tried multiple times to get her to explain to me what she saw. And I tried to give her different prompts on maybe even motioning with her hand how tall it might be or how hot it was or colors. And she was not comfortable doing that.
Okay. There was also discussion about the burns on Gannon. She describes on one hand that there were little burns on his arms and then says by Monday they're peeling. Any significance to that for you? That seems to be some divergent statements as to the severity of these burns.
Yes, in our phone call on February 13th, she was saying that Gannon was peeling and peeling his burns and that they were very bloody. And that's a lot different from how she was describing those to me in this interview.
In that particular, and you're referring back to a different one of these recorded calls that we listened to.
Correct.
Did that appear to be, from your perspective, a way to explain why there would be blood on his walls and in his bedroom?
Yes.
So again, to explain away important details in the investigation?
Yes.
In this particular discussion of the fire in the basement, she gives a long description about opening windows and how people are sleeping upstairs, everybody is, but then Gannon ends up downstairs. Did that appear to be an isolation of Gannon based on the way you're hearing that?
Yeah, it didn't make sense to me at the time on why he would be back down there, but I decided not to press it.
Does that also, I guess building on that, the fact that she describes all the windows being opened, we're talking about mid to late January, likely very cold in there. Was that significant at all to you?
Yeah, I wasn't really taking in all of that, but I didn't think from talking with El Paso, the sheriff's office, that there was such a cause for so much smoke and inhalation and windows being opened.
Okay. Next, I want to ask you about, during this interview, did you ask her about whether she went to work on that Monday, January 27th?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So we're going to jump to 1 hour, 27 minutes flat. And we're going to play from 1 hour, 27 minutes to 1 hour, 29 minutes and 42 seconds.
What I did was I said, I told Albert, I said, hey, I'll just stay at home. Great. But the plan was I wasn't. That was, but the plan was I was not.
So starting, when was that a plan?
I don't know, like December, so I was just going to try to use like days, whatever, because I didn't want to.
Right. What did you tell your school as far as why you didn't show up that day?
For that day, I didn't talk to them about anything that day.
Your school, you didn't?
That
Did you just not show? Were the office waiting on you? Or?
No. So what happened was I transitioned because I was like, okay, I wasn't going to be teacher anymore. And I was like, okay, I have to do something until this whole attendance thing starts. So I had to do something and just not have money or whatever. So I got on VA. I would do a long-term sub position or the regular subbing position. And then, so then I just, at that point, was going to just call in whenever I could work. I had it in my email.
Right.
I could just call in whenever I worked.
So were you scheduled to show up then Monday morning?
From the school that I wasn't going to work at anymore. I didn't even complete paperwork with them yet. So it wasn't even, I wasn't
They weren't
even,
counting on you to show up that day or working?
what do you mean? But I hadn't signed any contracts. I hadn't done anything with them because the whole plan was I was not going to be teaching them.
Okay, yeah, I get you didn't sign contracts, but were they planning for you to come in to do something on Monday and you had to call in?
I never called it on Monday. I'd already
Did
told
you
them.
text them or
No,
something?
on Thursday or Friday, I'd already
Text
told
them.
them. Okay. On Thursday or Friday, I'd already told them that I wasn't coming in. I didn't go in Friday either. I'd already told them I wasn't. So it was you're asking me about if I told them Monday, but I'd already told them prior. That
Or you'd already told them, so you didn't have to tell them you're not coming in on Monday?
Right, because I'd already told them because on my dad's side, there was someone who passed away. The prior week. So that's
So, Mr. Grusing, when she's giving you this answer, what information did you have already about her employment on that Monday?
I think in the 4:00 a.m. hour, she had texted to say one of her relatives had got hit by a car and was killed. And that's why she was not coming into work.
And the way that she's describing it, it sounds like she's saying that this was a text that she sent the previous week to a different school as opposed to the one that she was now supposed to work at on Monday, January 27th.
That's correct.
What was significant of that to you?
I was attempting to walk her through her own timeline that she had provided us on the Sunday night burn injuries and then what happened Monday morning. And that was the next logical thing that she should have been describing to me. And then,
Okay.
like you said, she put it back on either Thursday or Friday.
Okay. The reason that she gives in that portion of the interview is that she didn't want to go back into teaching, right?
Yes.
Did she ever say in this part of the interview or any other part of the interview or phone calls having any sort of mental health anxiety issues as related to teaching?
Not that I listened to. No.
Was it more along the lines of she was just not happy in teaching because of the current environment in schools?
Yes.
Following that portion of the discussion, did you ask her to give you a statement about what happens on Monday, January 27th?
I did.
Does she then, in her answer, is this where she asks you, I'm going to need some help from you?
Yes.
All right, Your Honor, we're going to jump to 1 hour, 32 minutes and 47 seconds and play through 1 hour, 46 minutes and 45 seconds.
That's kind of long.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So tell me about the next morning. So now you're at home, Gannon's at home,
Right.
Elena's at school. Tell me what happens now.
right. So this is where I need help from everybody.
And you can get help. Like I said, I've had some high-level informants that have told me some horrific things, and we've had to relocate them. We can get different names. But to do that, to kick that in motion, we need to know the story. We can't just say,
Right.
oh, someone got really important information.
Right. Well, that's where I would need someone to help guide me through this because I want to help more than anything. But
That's
I'm-
why I'm here, because I'm representing Denver FBI, and then I have the ability to pull resources from Quantico, which is our behavior analysis unit. Everything comes out of there.
Right.
It's called CERD, which is our incident response group. So this was a big enough case that the supervisor of the FBI asked me to come down from Denver, and I get all my training out there. So
Right.
you're not going to have better resources in this room right now. And I'm not bragging.
Right.
I've just been doing this stuff for a long time.
Right.
So if you tell me what happens and then you need protection, we can do all that stuff. So DEA doesn't have those capabilities, ATF doesn't. DEA just investigates drugs, and they're very good at it.
Right.
But the FBI, we're now worldwide, and we have offices Bogota to Russia to China to wherever. So we get a lot more funding because when September 11th happened, that changed everything for us. We were the nation's #1 law enforcement agency before then, but they gave us so many more resources since then.
Right.
And so I am specialized in missing kids and unusual homicide, including serial killings and whatever else. So I didn't get in right away on your case, but I did. I have been working it for the past couple of weeks.
That was
Well, I'm here now, and whatever you tell me, the worst thing I can do for people like you is if you have a story that requires your protection, for the FBI, it would not be good for me to run out and say, oh, Letecia told me this, and that's not how it works. If this can help us find Gannon, we'll do whatever we can. Okay.
Not like I just need like protection for.
Okay. Well, you can get that, but we have to know the story first.
So how am I supposed to get help talking to someone first before we talk to you? Because I'm willing to do that.
So here's your deal. If you need help, and if you want to go through the court process, that's fine. We leave, and then you work through the court process. But then it just becomes the whole focus of this, Letecia, right now, you're the only one. You're the last one. You're the last adult with him. You're the last adult we know about with him. You have not told anybody anything else to lead us. We have been trying to work with Al to say, what does she say in that?
Yeah.
You know, and the Quincy Brown thing and whatever else.
I was mad at him about all that. But a lot of it was keys to help you guys. What it should have been. I could have just reached out to someone to be like terrified for myself. That would have been. Also, what I can help you with can also help you with something else you might already recommend. I'm just saying.
Well, Letecia, you've got to give me something here to work with. If you want to go through the court process, like I said on here, the last question, if you want to stop at any time, you are more than welcome to stop and say.
But it says you can have one present to talk to you.
Yep. And that will kick in the court process, and then we're done, which is fine. And if that's what you want. Okay, but the whole, if you need protection and that sort of thing, I can't get you there without you giving me something. So I listened to all the calls with that, and I've seen the crime scene with those.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what happened in the bedroom was not Gannon slinging his blood on the wall.
Well, that's totally like not even to do with anything.
Yeah,
that's why I'm so like upset about bedrooms and all those things, because I understand you're an expert. I know that, but I'm telling you that I'm gonna need like protection. That's it. It's not me. I'm not the person.
So, but if you're not the person, the charges won't be different. Okay, if you allowed someone else to come in and do the things to Gannon that we know happened to him, you're just as guilty.
I didn't allow anyone, and I don't know of anything like you're talking about to be happening to Gannon. I do know that there's something I could tell you that can help you or help me, help everyone. But help.
All right. So let me tell you where I am. Okay. I've been 23 years with the FBI. For the last 20, I've been working violent crime. And I've worked some of the worst cases. And it kind of messed me up a little bit, to be honest.
Right.
Seeing what I've seen. And I worked 20 years of bank robberies.
Mm-hmm.
So I always thought that you were going to have, I'm the FBI, I'm the good guy, bad people go rob banks. And that's not how it is. I've had to help arrest other FBI agents, police officers, people from the church, school resource officers. I mean, it doesn't matter what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other side, some of the bank robbers, one of them came out after serving a 10-year sentence, and we had it off just fine, even though, we were on opposite sides of the fence. The thing that I have seen, though, throughout is when something very bad happens, people think they can't recover from it. And I do not think you are a bad person.
I'm not.
That's why I'm here. No, I don't.
I didn't do
I've
that.
seen bad
And I know
people.
you tell people that to get them to help you.
No,
but
I'm not. I would not have this approach with you if I thought you were a bad person. I think something bad happened. And I think that what I've seen a lot, whether it's you think that you can get out if you do this or this or this, that's where you are now. And you're hoping that one of these things can save you. They're not going to be able.
What do you mean? What were you talking about?
There was nobody else there. We've looked at the alarms, we've looked at the motions, we've looked at the
Sir,
detectors.
The alarms are already covered up.
The alarms were already covered
Yeah.
up. Okay. But
Sir, I'm telling you, sir, what you have is not you. I know you say you wouldn't sit here and say this to me if I wasn't, whatever. I'm telling you, it is true. I would not and did not, did not. And with you guys having my phone, I would have thought that you would have had some of the apps looked into. Now, I would have thought that sometimes when I talked to Albert, you might have listened to him or whatever, it could have been some help and indication. I really did. Because I couldn't come at you and just tell you if you say there's somebody not involved. I could walk you through it and prove it to you, and you guys have already had this predetermination. I don't mean you. I have the first time I spoke to you. You guys have already had this predetermination that that's what's going to happen. It's already in your mindset.
Yeah, because we have no other evidence pointing us elsewhere. So if there was a shred of evidence, Letecia, that pointed us to some other person, we would be all over it. As soon as Quincy Brown came out of your mouth, it doesn't take long.
So, 100% he's in Mexico right
Yes,
now.
we do now. Mhm.
Right.
Because we did get our legal, we have what's called a legal attaché.
Okay. Where that alone, and I get that you're saying you have someone who looked into that and knows that, that's where I know in my heart that I can't trust to get help. That very much.
You're saying Quincy Brown's
No,
in Mexico?
that's not what I'm saying. But you would have said another word, like something in between that would have gave that off. Like, you wouldn't have said he's just in Mexico and didn't do anything. You would have said, oh, did he come back here for a reason? You wouldn't have said any of that. You would have known some other things too. Or maybe you have and you just can't tell me those things. And that's okay. But
we don't, in a case like this, so tips will come in,
Mhm.
The public will call in. And then, of course, you and Al are primary interest because you're the parents of the missing kid. And 90% of the time, when a kid goes missing, it has to do with one of the parents.
Mhm.
That's it. That we work on probability.
Okay.
So, and especially with you, then, you're there, you say he went to a neighbor's house. That's the very first thing you say. And then there's no thought that somebody took him.
you
So
said there's no fault.
there's no thought for law enforcement.
But you
When
don't
you-
understand what happened leading up to the days before. Nothing to do with Gannon, nothing to do with, okay, in terms of me and Gannon. I love Gannon with all my heart. And so you can sit here and say 90% parents, this.
I'm not saying you don't love him.
I love him.
I'm saying that even I have had times when my son rolled a basketball underneath that I wanted to turn around and
Right.
do something, and then I would have regretted it later.
But what you're saying to me is, what you think is that I hurt Gannon. That's
And
what
I
you
don't think it was intentional.
Okay, but I didn't hurt Gannon. Okay. And I didn't either intentional or not intentional hurt Gannon. I did not. That's just not what happened. Okay. And I had this conversation with you just to see for a second if I could get help from you.
Which you can, but how can you expect me to help you, Letecia, if you're not going to tell me what happened?
Because
You can't go, so let me tell you. You can unlock the entire resources of the FBI right now. I've told you that. But then you say that you're not willing to do it, whether you don't trust me or you think that there's these
But you
people
already
involved.
told me someone wasn't there based on an alarm.
That's from what we can see. Yes,
Okay.
movement in the basement,
Right.
movement upstairs.
But you've already told me that based on that. Okay. But what you're not realizing is there's 2 sensors on that home. Okay. Two that can easily be manipulated. Easily. Okay. And if you even knew anything about prior, you would be thinking a lot differently. But see, that's why I can't talk to you about these things, because you already have predetermined what
It
you
doesn't
think.
matter what I
You-
predetermine.
But you
Listen,
said intentionally,
listen,
unintentionally, and that's not the case.
I'm not saying I'm right 100% of the time. It doesn't, you need to just disregard whatever I think, or really whatever anybody else thinks. If you have a truth, and if you have something that will help us find him, really, the hell with me and everybody else and what we think. You should just cast that aside. All I can follow is the facts of the case as they're told to me. And so for me to go somewhere else besides the facts, I have to then go back to the facts to check it. So when I say
I'll
something
go
like,
to you in private, but you can't tell Albert about anything that led up to it or anyone else.
Albert will
But
not
I
know any
will
of this.
understand that, but I need your help, and I need to know that you tell me there's resources, you tell me whatever, okay? I know you're saying you got whatever, this and that and all that, but I really am going to need help, like, a lot. Where do you? Don't base it on some alarm report, because they can easily manipulate it.
No, we're not just.
They easily
looking for
were. I know, I'm saying when you're saying no one else was there.
So
When you say that, don't base it on that tweet. I'm begging you, because that was not even remotely. Was not even. I mean,
Mr. Grusin?
Mr. Grusin, I just remind you that you're still under oath.
At the beginning of that portion of the interview, Mr. Grusing, you go through a description of if you allowed somebody else to come into the house and do bad things to Gannon, then you're just as guilty. Why were you going down that path and explaining that to her?
Well, it had to do with the numerous stories that she had told us and Al over the phone, and just whatever compliciter she was going to make with me, I was wanting to move more directly towards her involvement. So just saying that if she was going to introduce yet another person, like the last one that she introduced was the pregnant lady, and it didn't really have any legs to stand on. I didn't want her to go down that path again.
So was that you trying to encourage her to talk about her actions as opposed to pointing it out to different people?
Yes.
Okay. What about the discussion you had where you're talking about the good guys, the bad guys dynamic and that whole thing, arresting bank robbers? What was that purpose of that?
To tell Letecia basically that she was a good person and that good people can do bad things.
In that portion of the interview, she says she couldn't just come at you and tell you what had happened. What was your take from that particular point of the interview?
Well, I don't know if this is the same thing you're talking about, but she told me that she had keys or some type of keys she was trying to give us, but that she couldn't tell us directly what happened. And to me, that meant that she had been giving us hints along during the different phone calls through Al, because she had already told me that she knew that I and others were listening.
That's exactly what I was talking about, where she's telling you basically that I've been trying to give hints throughout this whole thing. Were there, in fact, some hints in her various statements?
Absolutely.
Can you give us examples of that, please?
Well, she mentioned that Gannon was not in Colorado in either the phone call on February 19th or 21st. I think it was the 19th. And then she told Al that he's not in the U.S. And we later learned that it's close to being true. She also, as we've spoken of numerous times, described the injuries, and she was even describing time periods that we were interested in, like the night before the 2 trips to Costco and what had happened in between those 2 trips. And then when she would come home, what happened after she arrived back at the house. And yeah, so when you compile them all together, she was describing a lot of what had happened separately through the investigation being done by El Paso County Sheriff's Office.
And when you talk about that it was almost true that Gannon wasn't in the United States, are you referring to where Gannon was later found on the essentially banks of a river that flows into the Gulf of Mexico?
Yes.
Okay, down in Florida. Why did you tell her that you don't think it was intentional? What, in the way you're implying it in that statement is you don't think what she did to Gannon was intentional. Why'd you say that?
Well, in her first statement that I was present for with Al on the 13th of February, she said that Gannon's first injury in her timeline was that he cut his foot on Saturday. And then she went on to other things that had happened. And in my experience with domestic violence, I had seen that an accident might precede something intentional. And I was giving her the opportunity to say that if she wanted to.
Was that essentially you building it out for her to feel better about telling you what actually happened to Gannon?
Yes, and still just trying to find any factual information from her on injuries to Gannon when they might have occurred. And it's much easier to talk about an accident than something intentional.
Okay. The next section that I want to talk about is right after this. Do you remember her talking about she reached out to people to go places?
Yes.
Let's go ahead and play that. It's at timestamps 146:45 through 148:30. So going directly from here to 148:30.
So you care about Gannon?
I care about Gannon. I have reached out every day offering for people to go in certain places to get even insight to see. I every day ask, hey, can you go do this? Can someone meet with you?
So you've asked someone to go look for him?
Right, like I reached out and I asked Albert, I said, hey, can you meet me? Let me tell you about this and let's go to this location to look. I've asked all these.
What location do you think he's at now? Gannon?
No, I'm just saying like
No,
in
but
general.
I'm asking you.
In
right
general.
now. Where do you think he is right now?
I don't know exactly. I don't know,
Where do you know him to last?
but I am 99% confident Gannon is alive.
Okay. Letecia, where do you know him to last be?
I want to help her, but I'm in a room and you've already talking about all this and the courts and it's me against everybody else.
So here's the deal. Once this thing goes through the courts, you talk about that. You're the only one to be with him. You think you're going to be able to tell a story.
A story?
It might be a true story.
God, sir.
But
Story?
listen, I've listened to a lot of your stories and I don't know what else to tell them.
Yeah, okay, that's because I was mad at him. Had nothing, I already knew.
But I've seen what you told the news reporter. I've listened to what you told El Paso about the sex assault that happened in the house.
I already knew that you guys were listening to him.
Yeah.
So I said that because
So-
I was angry.
But what I think I can offer you today is some help.
So in the beginning of that portion, Mr. Grusing, she's talking about she's been trying to reach out to get people to go places. Do you know of any effort she made to reach out to give information, factual information that could be acted on?
I don't.
So in this, basically in this interview, do you also go through a portion where you're describing that you're looking at her stories and they're just not making sense?
Correct.
I'm going to jump to 1 hour, 51 minutes and 40 seconds and play 1 hour, 56 through 1 hour, 56, 24.
And so I'm looking at your story, the ones that you've told to Al, the ones that you've said in the media, of hitting your head. When you hit your head, you didn't see what happened. And then when someone else takes Gannon, or when he's riding a bike and he hits his head and stuff like
Not riding a bike. I just told you I was saying that to Albert because I was upset that he wasn't listening to me, that I did not hurt Gannon.
I don't think you intended to hurt Gannon at all.
There's no,
No, I'm not saying you did, or he hurt himself. Something bad happened in his room. Have you seen you helped clean it off the wall? We know that.
this here, what you're talking about is completely irrelevant about the whole
Well, then-
thinking bad,
Well,
whatever.
Tell me about, if it's irrelevant, Letecia, help me. Because there's a big blood pool in the corner, there's spray on the wall.
Because if I tell you anything about any of that, all you're going to say to me is, hey, da, da, da.
If you didn't do it, no, I will be your advocate. Because why do we know each other?
No, but
Why would I care? If you didn't do it and it helps me find Gannon,
I didn't do it.
okay, well then help me find out who did it.
Who did what?
That's a Gannon in his
Done
room.
what again in his room?
There's a pool of blood in the corner.
Okay.
That's Gannon's blood.
Okay. So you're saying, now this is where I have a hard time knowing what it is. You're like, okay, trust you not, right? You're saying there's a pool of blood. Albert said saucer side, because I'm sure you hadn't say all this, because I'm sure you were there, or whatever. Okay. In his room, and you said something about, what'd you say? Then, if that's your whatever, your expert advice or
There's
whatever,
more blood.
okay, then where do you think that I had any involvement with Gannon, and where did he go? That's where it has to click at some point. That
And that's what I listened to you do that to Al, to where you're making him guess what happened to Gannon.
I don't want him to guess.
Well, no, you're asking me to guess.
No, I was asking a question, sir. I wasn't trying to get you. I was just saying in general, asking a question. I want help with people understanding. I tried to give any insight, help, clue, anything, but I can't because they know my daughter, everyone, my family, my mom, everyone. And you can think that.
But right now, Letecia, I mean, you can go down that road, but it's not going to save you in court
But-
because you're the last adult living,
So,
and nobody else. Just let me try to
I'm
protect
sorry.
you. I'm not trying to hurt you here. This is actually protecting you. If you don't tell us where to go investigate,
Mhm.
then nobody's going to investigate for you. You're the last adult living. You told a lot of lies about all these injuries.
not to, I
But
didn't tell lies to you or to any police officer.
did a sex assault happen in the house?
I didn't tell any lies to you or a police officer.
We don't have anybody to chase though. If we don't chase you. Do you understand?
But if you chase me, okay, and you do this to me, people are protected because you guys aren't going to protect everybody. People are protected.
We can protect people. We can protect you, family, if this is involved. Now, I've worked South American death groups. I've worked gangsters. I've worked organized crime.
Mm-hmm.
None of that stuff rings true with what happened here. I mean, how is a very organized gang going to come into a house in Colorado Springs?
Who said it? A house? Why does it have to be in the house? See, that's
That's
where
where
you
he last was.
Oh.
Are you going to make me guess where he was then?
No, I'm telling you, you're not going to listen to me. You already just said that last was in the house.
But you're going back to what you care what I think. You shouldn't care what I
I do
think.
care what you think. You want to know why? Because I care about how people think of me because I am not that kind of person.
And
That's why.
And if you can point me to a different person, then I can help you.
I gave him.
So it stopped at 1:56:26. When the discussion about the riding the bike and Quincy Brown came up, she stopped you and said, basically she gives a description of, she was just saying that to Al. Do you remember that portion?
Yes.
Was that her basically admitting that what she had told in that particular story, that Quincy Brown, that whole thing was not true?
Correct.
What about the portion of the discussion where you point out that, are you trying to make Al guess? Are you trying to make me guess? What was your intent of making that distinction there, and what were you trying to get to?
Well, I asked her a question about the blood in the bedroom, trying to get her to explain that to me. And instead, she posed the question to me that if she was responsible, where was Gannon? It's an open-ended question that only she knew. And as I told Letecia, I had seen her do this to Al. Well, I'd heard her do it to Al while we were in the room multiple times when it's a direct question. We need an answer, or I needed one for the blood. And instead she's asking me where Gannon is, and she knows that I don't know the answer.
Did it appear from your perspective that was intentionally trying to not give you information as to what happened in the room, or to Gannon?
Yes, both.
Trying to not give you information as to what happened in the room, or to Gannon?
Yes, both.
Did you confront her with web searches that were done on her phone?
Yes.
I'm going to jump to that portion of the interview, and this is 1 hour, 56 minutes and 52 seconds through 2 hours and 10 seconds.
Did you know in here I even have what you entered in your phone? The stuff that you've entered and deleted? Like blood is spurting from an arterial bleed, direct pressure not controlling.
Do what? I didn't look this up.
It's from your phone.
Blood is what?
Spurting from an arterial bleed.
No.
Somebody did from your phone. I don't like my stepson.
No.
I don't like my stepson. Should I get a divorce? Stalk cheating. I'll stalk Instagram. I'll stalk cheating in Colorado Springs. Catch I'll stalk cheating. How to get blood out of sheep.
Out of sheep?
Mm-hmm. I want immunity.
The blood out of sheets was because we always had always nosebleeds. If I ever looked at blood out of sheets, it was nosebleeds.
And I
I
figured it might be something.
didn't ever look up anything about an artery or something unless it went from something else.
It's on your phone.
And I never looked up anything about my stepson unless someone else did.
The reason I brought up gangs is you looked up, I want immunity because it was gang related. And this sounds like, find me a new husband, find me a rich guy who wants to take care of his kids.
The new husband is just because Albert already knew that was about the lady Debbie Sherrill who wanted to find a new husband after 35 or something. He picked me about Amazon.
Like a lot of these can have nothing to do with this.
It doesn't.
I get it.
And
Can I spray paint wood?
spray paint wood? Well, we always spray wood.
Yeah. I'm doing all the work for my stepkids and their mom doesn't help.
Oh, that bothered me. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't blame
Oh,
you.
yes, because I wanted them to be mine. Like
What about
for
it?
me to be their child.
Hit and run? You Googled a lot on Letecia and traffic accident, hit and run.
I didn't hit anybody.
No? What was that?
What date was it?
I don't have a date on these. I was downloading stuff as I was coming on the plane.
Yeah, no. I know.
My
You told
husband
me
wants a divorce. My husband wants a baby, but I want an abortion. One day, some people will wish they treated you differently, which I get that. Parenting should be 4 people, not 1. Quote a suicidal person might say. I mean, these make me very sad when I read them because I can see you're doing all the work at home by yourself.
which I wanted to be there. Like I wanted to totally have the kids as my children. That's the point you're not getting. Like I wanted those kids to be saying to me that I'm their mom.
Yeah.
Like I am the person who does it, cares for them, loves them, everything. So you can think that
What do you do if you suspect a person swallowed poison? Did somebody actually swallow poison?
poison. I don't know. I always click things and read them. I wouldn't
Did somebody
swallow
swallow it?
I wouldn't swallow any poison.
You will never forgive me and treat me like a princess. You'll never know when it's too late.
Oh yeah. I mean, I always search for things when Albert.
So in that particular portion, you mentioned the immunity. Was there particular phone calls during the consensual recorded phone calls process where she was also saying the same thing to Al in those phone calls?
Yes, there was. It was one of the earlier phone calls I was involved in.
Did you ask her to describe what injuries Gannon suffered a little bit later after this?
Yes.
I'm going to jump to timestamp 2 hours and 50 seconds. And play through 2 hours, 8 minutes and 55 seconds.
Everything.
If you're not willing to go with who took Gannon, can you at least tell me what injuries he suffered? The true ones? As far as the cut foot, was that a legit injury?
Yes.
And where did that happen?
Oh, he was outside in the garage, and when he was outside in the garage, he was running to go help me take the trash out, come back and help me get stuff out of the car, and then he stepped on something, which I left the blood there. Like, I left it. Like, because Albert said, don't touch that fine wood or African wood, whatever kind of wood it was.
What did the piece of wood look like? Okay. And it's still there in the garage?
I had to drive over them all the time. Like, I always had to drive over the pieces of wood.
Right. But
Right.
you didn't take that out of the garage?
It's too big. You couldn't fit it in anything. You couldn't fit the pieces. The long boards that were in the garage, you could not fit. I left. Okay, so there was the piece of board that I threw in the back of our truck, and then there was the 2 long boards that were sitting there. So the board that was about like this size, and the board that was the long boards that were sitting here. I left the long boards because that was supposed to be the fancy wood, and I didn't want the wood. or trying to get the blood off of it. The other piece of wood was the wood that I threw in the back of Albert's truck.
And what was that mean?
There was a bunch of pieces that were laying around that from that night, from us running through there. It was like little pieces. There was a piece about this size, maybe a couple pieces. But that
You threw it in the back of the truck? That bigger piece?
you said bigger like this. It wasn't that big.
Okay.
Yeah, it was cheap wood. Like I knew it was not the wood that he would be freaking out over. So from Sunday, he did hurt his foot from Sunday.
And how badly was it bleeding?
It wasn't. I say Sunday, Saturday. I'm sorry. From Saturday. Albert had just left, like to drive to the airport. He wasn't even gone long.
Mm-hmm.
He had just left to drive to the airport.
Okay. So,
So-
did it require a Band-Aid? Or-
You know, whenever he always does something, he tries to be like, he's not like laying over. It's like, oh, I need a Band-Aid or whatever. Gannon would literally walk around with toilet paper in the middle of his toe, and it would have blood or whatever, and just run everywhere to his room or whatever.
So what do you do on this occasion?
We literally took the paper towel. That's why I just told you about toe,
Uh-huh.
and put it in between.
So it was in between his toes is where the injury
No,
was?
it was like wrapped here.
Okay.
We had it wrapped. And I don't remember if we got a Band-Aid, to be honest. This is what Gannon.
So that doesn't sound like a big injury.
Well, it wasn't. I mean, it was blood. There was a big injury. I left it on the wood because I said I'm not going to clean his fine African wood.
What did it look like on the wood? Drops? Streaks?
Well, what I did originally was I was trying to take water to do it, but then I realized if I put cleaner, then that wouldn't do anything but cause the wood to damage because Albert always wanted to build things with all the wood that we
Oh,
bought.
sorry.
And if I use those pieces of wood and all that stuff,
Did you ever use that shop vac to clean up anything out there?
no, I never used the shop vac. The shop vac was never, I couldn't even like move anything with the shop. Anything that would have been used with the shop vac would have been Albert, other than the times that we brought it weeks ago, and we did spring cleaning or fall cleaning around the house, in the corners. So that would have been the shop vac. There was nothing I ever did and vacuumed up something with a shop vac.
All right,
Like,
that helps me. I'm
you
just
know,
asking.
like any of that.
Right.
There none of that ever happened.
So the burns on the arms weren't that bad. The cut on the toe or the bottom of the foot wasn't that
So
bad.
we still were able to go hiking. He was able to still go
Right.
hiking. It was bleeding on the board.
But
we
not
didn't
after
do
that, not over the house, that sort of thing.
Well, he had the piece of paper and went down to his room.
Yeah.
Like wrapped around his foot. So I mean, if anything, there could have been drops of blood or something. No.
What about the wound to the head that you talked to Al about?
So Albert was like trying to get me to say whatever because I'm sure you guys are having me that. I knew that's what he was doing. So Albert was trying to get me to say that, like talk to him about like or whatever. So I threw out some stories to Albert because he was making me so upset, just like everyone not understanding that intervention for there's someone intervening in this. And that's where people didn't understand and want to say anything. So I just started rambling stuff to Albert. And I even said to you guys, hey, I know you're listening. And it was just to do whatever.
But do you know what that sounds like, though, to a dad who's whipping a kid? And then you say, and the previous head wound happened where it was blood running down his face and that sort of thing. And, had to bandage it up. And
Well, I don't remember saying anything about bandaging up.
I think you said Quincy Brown tried to bandage it up.
Oh, because he was making me mad about something. Yeah. I was going to say, I don't remember me saying I did that.
So he did suffer a head wound, though. We know.
Head-
Yes. Head or neck.
Okay.
And that is what caused the blood there. And so even if you choose not to tell us where Gannon is today because you're too nervous or whatever else, we would like to know where that was on him. So if we find him on our own, if you've given me the clues to go find him, that sort of thing,
Mhm.
where was that wound?
Gannon is alive.
He's alive, fine, but where was that wound? Was it his neck or his head?
I don't know anything about a neck or head.
Well, you had to clean up the wall. You went ahead.
That was not, that is not even from what you're talking about there had nothing to do with anything from Saturday, Sunday, and whatever. That had nothing to do with anything.
How could it not?
It did
there
not.
was a lot of blood.
It did
And
not.
You're going to have to explain that.
Sir, it did not.
Well, just tell me how.
It did not. I promise
But
you.
you're not going to tell me how. So where we can help you with it.
You're not going to help me, though.
How could I not help you? How are you going to get up, Letecia, on the stand after telling all these stories, which we're going to ask you about, and then say, I can explain all that, and it's some party that I never told law enforcement to go chase? If Gannon is alive, we have an 11-year-old kid somewhere being held against his will, and you're not telling us. You might as well have done this yourself. That's why I'm saying.
Let me hold you again. All right there. pull it out. I'll just put that
Which
there.
one?
Okay.
So I've paused it at 2 hours, 8 minutes and 55 seconds. What did you write down in your notebook?
I just remember the first part, that the head wound was on Saturday.
You remember it saying, and had nothing to do with this?
Words to that effect, yes.
What was your take on that? That instead of saying it on the camera, she wanted to write it down in your notebook?
Well, whether it's by now, whether it's the argument that she didn't want to talk about the burns, and even calling Gannon in as absent, you know, I wasn't pushing her. I would give her the opportunity to talk, and then she would not talk, so I would move on. And now that we're to the blood and what happened in the room, I think it was too difficult for her to say it out loud with the head wound.
When she's going over the wound to the head, and then she actually says she just started throwing out stories because Al was making me mad. You remember that
I do.
portion? What were your thoughts on that particular part of the interview?
Well, that was consistent with what she was telling Al on the phone calls. And Al would continue to push her like, we need to find Gannon. And then she would say, what about our relationship? So she would move from finding out what happened to Gannon to her feelings. And that's what she was doing here again.
Is this also an example of her blaming others for her behavior?
Yes.
Did you ask her about blood being found in the back of her Volkswagen Tiguan?
Yes, I did.
Okay, we're going to play that portion next. And Judge, just as I'm watching the time, is there a time that you want me to shoot for a break?
3:10.
Okay.
Something like that.
I'll just watch the clock on that.
All right.
This next section picks up from here and goes through 2 hours, 10 minutes and 57 seconds.
About the blood on the back of the Tiguan.
Take one.
Mm-hmm.
The only blood would have been in the back of the when we opened the car up. In the car, we were sitting there to do it. There's nothing to do with it.
There's too much to be
No,
told.
no. No, sir. That is absolutely not true. That was where we were sitting on the back of the car when we were unloading the stuff. We were sitting in the back of the car. There is no, no, sir. Mm-mm.
There's plenty in the garage, so.
But there was nothing in the garage. There was plenty of times that everybody worked in the garage. Had nothing to do with it.
Not everybody. Gannon's not working in the garage and bleeding all over the place.
There was nothing about bleeding all over the place in the garage that had to do with anything. I'm telling you, what you're asking me was completely, totally different than anything has to do with
Do you know what this looks like? Say you're telling me the truth. Again, please don't care what I think. Say you're telling me the truth right now. That Saturday had nothing to do with him disappearing and being gone for over a month. Do you know what that looks like for you?
It looks like I am in the middle of a situation and I need help getting out.
But you're not willing to tell me how to help you. So now you're saying that Gannon had a really bad head wound on Saturday.
No, I didn't say that. That's not what I said.
That the head thing was Saturday,
Right.
and
I was
the
saying-
amount of blood
no,
there.
that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying what you're talking about completely different than what you're saying.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this doesn't look any better for you because now you haven't told Al that he has a head wound. You haven't called the hospital.
It wasn't like that. It was
Well,
not.
then you have to tell me. I mean, you don't have to do anything, but
It's not what it was like, sir. It's not. Had nothing to do with me. It's not what it was like, sir.
So in that particular portion where you're asking about the blood on the Tiguan, had you been made aware of when she showed up to the El Paso County Sheriff's Office for an interview and the condition of her car?
Yes.
What information did you know about that?
But the car had been washed.
Did you ask her if someone else injured Gannon in this
Yes.
interview? Okay. We're going to jump to that portion. It picks up here and goes through 2 hours and 20 minutes and 06 seconds.
someone else injured him on Saturday. That's an easy question. You don't even have to tell me a name. Did someone else injure him on Saturday?
I wanted to be friends because I didn't have friends. Okay. So I wanted to be friends. I would ever tell you about any of these apps we had to go on. See, that's where this is going to be whatever, because you're not going to take my version and my side of what really happened.
Letecia, let me stop. If you help us, I will take whatever version you tell me, and I will actually take it. That's all I do is I don't chase. I am wrong most of the time.
Do you have a way to pull up apps? Do you have a way to pull up stuff on apps? Do you have that?
we can do that while you're here. Yes.
Okay. Well, I know I'm saying, you said you have this.
Yes. We have ways to pull up apps.
Okay.
What app?
How do you have ways to pull apps?
We have technical people. I'm not a tech person, but we have plenty of tech people that are super smart to do it. If you tell me what to do, we can do that while we're talking, take a break, you go to the restroom, whatever else. We can solve this thing right now.
Why come I just can't talk to you without a bunch of people watching me?
Then we can talk right now.
Yeah, but come on, there's people here.
Yeah. What do you want me? You tell me what you want to do, and I will have
I want to talk to you to tell you about leading up to anything. I want to talk to you because I want you to find Gannon, and I believe in all my heart you will help me. Not lie to me.
I will help you.
Not try to say, oh, you're telling the story and throw me somewhere. Okay.
So is he alive?
Let me finish this and I'll
Sorry.
answer the question. I understand what you're saying about federal versus local, whatever. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to want to talk to you is that I don't want anything said before held against me if I provide you with 100% the truth to help you.
That'll work. This is the first time we're talking, and it's for a reason. You haven't talked to the feds yet.
Right. So if I can, I don't want to be sitting here with all these people watching because I want you to listen to exactly what happened and go from there. Okay?
Okay.
And that's not, I know you're trained to do this and interrogate people and all that. I want nothing more than for Gannon to be okay. That's all I want. I promise you. That's all I want.
Okay.
It. And I will take whatever resources, whatever help you want me to go do, even if it means take myself in the middle of somewhere where someone wants me to go to get him. Make sure he's okay. I would do it. Because I love Gannon. And I love my family. And I love the ground that everybody walks on. Albert, Harley, Lena, Gannon. That is my family.
So
I know in the end, you might think you got whatever by this and forensics and whatever. And I'm not arguing any of that. Very smart to know that you're a smart man and not stupid. But I need the help, the resources to not be attacked anymore. To know that something on stupid app was a doing this. Okay?
So you brought someone in.
So I'm not, I just,
I know, I get it. So I'm representing law enforcement in Colorado.
right?
Okay. And if you tell me something, even though, we've started a recording now, whatever else, and if you say we won't talk unless we turn off the recording, that can happen, but I'm going to pull in all those resources.
No, I want you to pull in resources. I'm not denying you to say pull in the resources. I'm looking at you from mother to a father. I have been scared because I don't know what's going to happen, not with because I did something. I wouldn't have told you that there was random people intervention or all these things if there wouldn't have been. Okay. I wouldn't have done that.
Mm-hmm.
Could have easily just been like, hey, if there was truly what you guys had thought about, I don't think you intentionally done it. There was an accident. Common sense, well enough to know, pick up the phone and say an accident happened. I'm not stupid. Okay. Might be freaking out because I don't know how to get this help, but I'm not stupid. Okay. And that's looking you dead in the eye to tell you, I did not hurt Gannon at all. Okay. Where are you? So if you're willing to give me the opportunity to talk to you, I don't want to be like watched by people. I don't want to be, whatever.
This is a separate recorder. This is mine.
Right. And so does the murder channel.
Yeah, they do.
Right. But I need the help.
You'll get the help.
Okay.
All we're focusing on is finding the help.
Okay. And that's what I want. I don't want to look at you look at me like I'm just this bad person who doesn't want to find our child. That's not it. I just don't, when it came at me as an attack, okay, because that's what originally happened, okay, and I get it. They have to do their job, and guess what? They're probably parents too, right? So they have to do their job, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I get that part. Okay. You can ask me about any of these, whatever. I'm sure it was something I saw somewhere, and I don't never look up anything about some stepchild. I looked up how I haven't got help, and how I wanted help, and how I wanted to be the person that they always were. Well, I didn't even want them to go home. I didn't even want them to have to go to their mother at all, because I had to see the pain and agony out of it, worry. So you're going to take my character based upon
No.
whatever.
That's just part. Listen, when a kid goes missing, we don't only look at the person, we look at the entire neighborhood, we go through people's closets, we go, everybody's lives is turned upside down.
And I'll tell you right now, if any of this is since then, of course I looked at what people said If people said something about the FBI, I Googled FBI.
You worry too much about what we think. If you will get us there, we can protect you.
Okay, so then I talk to you. And I don't talk to Myrtle Beach Police Department and all these other people. I talk to you and I explain to you. Okay, because you already saying you are charging me with something.
It's already been
Okay,
charged.
that's what I'm saying. You're already saying that. Okay. So how do I know that when I give you this here information?
But that's what this recording does. It protects you because I've already told you we will do this. We used to not report things, but we do now. And the only people sitting in there is the district attorney and some of the El Paso people. Myrtle Beach has nothing to do with this. They helped us find you.
Right.
So they have to be involved in this.
I understand it. There's nothing against Myrtle Beach.
Myrtle Beach is not in on it.
Okay, well,
If someone else took Gannon,
if
we
everyone
can
else is
find
in
it.
here, I don't like that. I want to be able to have emotional, raw conversation.
Let's do it now.
I can't.
I mean, we can't go anywhere. Where do you want to go?
Because I know people are sitting here.
Nobody's sitting there.
Okay, someone's watching from there.
They are in the other room. It's the district attorney. Do you want me to tell them they can't watch?
No, I want to talk to someone in a raw, real conversation that you can see truly in my heart the situation. That's what I want.
That's what this is.
No, it's not good.
But how can I make
Who is
it
it?
that
The district
necessary?
attorney from Colorado?
Yes.
Yeah, see?
I can ask them to leave the room.
It's not about leaving the room. It's about I'm asking for, instead of going through all, this, whatever, sitting here wasting our time or whatever, I'm asking. I'm taking your word that you're going to help me and you're going to provide the resources from wherever you said you have them.
Before I do that,
So in this portion of the interview, starts out with you asking her about, did somebody else injure Gannon? And then she went on the discussion about apps. Do you remember that portion?
Yes.
And you asked her to give the name of the app. And then it led to that long tangent. Was that another distraction attempt away from potentially things that may help?
Misdirection, yes.
Did you ask her about trips that she may have made to Palmer Lake area, so northern El Paso County?
I did.
So we're going to watch that next, and this is short. It's from 2 hours, 20 minutes and 10 seconds through 2 hours, 21 minutes and 20 seconds.
let me ask you some questions, okay? Because this is our investigation.
Right.
You're taking all these trips up to Palmer Lake, multiple trips, different cars, renting a car.
Okay.
How are you not involved in that?
First off, I didn't ever get to drive the rental car anywhere because immediately once we, let me go ahead and correct on this now. Once we got the rental car or whatever, the National Guard was there. Everybody was in the house. We went in Albert's truck the whole entire day going to Come and Go and all these places. So I never drove the rental car anywhere. And it's already been corrected from budget about the rental car situation. I had to get that corrected yesterday. I never even drove it anywhere because I didn't get to. So whatever GPS you get from the rental car, it never was driven by me anywhere but literally up the street back. I didn't hardly drive it anywhere. So there was no rental car driven to any kind of places at all. The only time I went anywhere in the rental car might have been maybe 40, 50 miles. I don't know, no more than 100 miles, counting there and back. And that was just driving it through the day because I went back to get my car.
But
What information did you have about rental cars when you were asking that question?
We had that on the day Al returned back in town, which I believe was Tuesday. The Tiguan had been parked at the airport, and Letecia had rented a car for that day leading into the next day. But then she'd actually came back and picked up the Tiguan Tuesday night. I don't remember or not if I had the mileage. She is correct here, and she drove it between 50 and 100 miles. I think it was about 70 miles. It came back that the rental car was driven. And like she said correctly, you could see the level of detail here. I believe she's being honest. And it probably was not driven up at Palmer Lake. So, yeah, it was factually correct what she was saying.
Were you aware of her having access to any other rental cars during the early days of this investigation?
Yes.
Like the Nissan Altima?
Yes, I believe her Tiguan was seized, and then after that, she rented the Nissan.
A relative rented the Nissan? We've got that in evidence. That's
Okay.
from a different witness. But also, did you later learn that she also had access to two different types of rental vans?
Yes, I learned that later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have a discussion about PetSmart / Petco that leads into a discussion about blood on the walls and on her shoes and that kind of thing?
Yes.
We're going to jump to 2 hours, 24 minutes and 51 seconds and play through 2 hours and 28 minutes and 5 seconds.
because everything that I've looked at in this case when you see the blood spatter on the wall. You see a big pool in the corner.
Okay.
You see your shoes that we collected with Gannon's blood on
Okay.
the bottom of them.
Okay.
And then you point to Eduardo, who doesn't exist, or maybe he did exist, and we don't have a last name.
Okay.
Then you point to Quincy Brown, and then you say Uncle Matt, these names and stuff, and it's like, I've seen it before,
Mhm.
and that was Harold.
Mhm.
That was.
But I'm not Harold.
I'm not saying you are, but I'm saying this is my experience.
Right. I got you.
I'm not saying you are, but it didn't go well for him because his attorney got up. He's one of the best attorneys in Colorado. He cost $600,000,
Mhm.
Greg Truman, and he
You
started
paid $600,000. Okay.
with his dead wife's money. And Greg got up and said, Harold is not a murderer, but he is a liar.
Right.
And that's what I was worried about when I first got the case, because they asked me to come in and work that case because I had worked other cases like it. And Harold's just sitting there all confident and whatever else. Please don't say this is you. I'm just saying this is my experience, because Harold told all these different stories. But when you start out with your defense attorney saying, my client is a liar, he's just making up crap.
Mhm.
That's to the victim's family on how
Right.
Tony died. That's to his friends at church. And all of them got up and testified. These are the different ways Tony died.
But again, it's not good.
But he might be today. You don't know that if someone is willing, if this, whether it's related or not, the head thing, if someone's willing to hold a kid for 30 days, how are they not willing to kill him?
Can I ask you something, or can I say something?
Yes.
Even if the scenario would have been me just going to go talk to the lady here and telling them, hey, this is what happened. This is who did it. I know that he was hurt by someone. You know what the next question you're going to say to me? Who was this person? And all I'd say to you was, oh, well, can you help me figure it out from this app? Or can you help me figure it out from this? And you know what you'd say to me? Oh, yeah, sure. Right? That's exactly what you would say to me. So finding, unless I can take you directly to where Gannon is, safe and sound, that is the only way that you're going to be like, oh, okay, she was the truth about it.
So this person is telling you that he's safe.
So that's the only thing. I've even asked y'all, or I say y'all again, I mean, you're staff.
I get it.
Hey, please help. Why isn't there a reward? Please, please, please. You're not understanding. Like, I have begged that completely. Like, day in and day out. Begged it to let me.
I still don't understand.
So in this discussion where you're trying to find information about how could there be blood in these places and on walls and Eduardo and Quincy and all that kind of thing, is this consistent approach from her in that she then doesn't want to give you any answers?
Yes.
When either in the recorded consensual phone calls with Mr. Stauch or this interview, did she ever give you any explanation like, you know what, I just woke up and Gannon was hurt and I don't know what happened?
No.
She ever say that she blacked out and Gannon was just gone and didn't know what happened?
She said once that her head was hit and she was unconscious during part of this period, but not that she didn't know what happened.
Okay. Did she ever say she woke up in some other place and didn't know what happened?
No.
Some point, there's been a couple of references now where she's wanting to go off camera and she does it here again as well. Some point, does one of the DAs that was with you out in South Carolina actually come into the room and have a discussion with her about going off camera?
Yes.
Was that Martha McKinney?
Yes, it was.
Who was the other DA that was with you out in South Carolina? Do you remember?
I don't.
Was it the young lady sitting here with us, Angelina
Yep.
Graziano?
Hi.
She look familiar?
Yes, she does.
I'm going to jump to that section. So jumping to 2 hours, 34 minutes and 20 seconds through 2 hours, 44 minutes and 54 seconds. And before I jump, as I'm typing in that timestamp to get to that exact point, is it shortly after this where you actually leave the room for a little while and have a discussion about, can we do this off camera thing?
Yes.
And when you did that, was that leaving her in the room, the defendant in that same room by herself for some period of time?
Correct.
Did she do anything unusual inside the room during that time?
I recall.
Starts talking in Spanish or anything like that?
No.
Okay. So we're at 2:34:20 and I'm going to play through 2:44:54.
Sounds about like 20 minutes.
Yeah, it is, Judge.
Mr. Grusing, you can step down.
Thank you.
I think going forward, how many more of these do you have to play?
Well, the whole thing, like I told you before, judges,
Well, let me rephrase let me give you some guidance. I think if it's going to be longer than about 10 minutes, Mr. Grusing can step down.
oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. I can just make notes of when they're going to be longer like that. And then this should get us to about 3:10, Judge. So
Okay.
maybe we can take the break right after this one.
And with the district attorney about this.
Just so you know, I looked behind there. This place is under construction. There's no one back. I can take you back there if you want to look.
Oh no, I believe you. I was just talking about all these people watching.
Yeah, and Martha's been watching.
Yeah, I have. Yeah. Johnson, you want to talk to me?
About protection.
So I don't have any trust in anyone. Obviously, I know I've told him that I said things to Albert because I was not or whatever. But how do I know that I'm going to get help? Like, because I didn't hurt him at all. But I need the help to figure out how I'm going to get to him.
Let me read you what she wrote. Or I'll just show it to you.
And I know it's Saturday. I probably
I had things Saturday and nothing to do with phones and this one. So we do have your phone, and we have gone through, like, these are keystrokes.
right. I'm talking
Oh.
about like it's a
Did you have a different phone beside the one that was in your van?
Hmm?
Did you have another phone? Like a second phone?
Yeah. No. It's the same phone.
It's the same
Yeah.
phone?
Yeah. No, not the same phone. You guys have the phone. That was just a real phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
But at this time. But
Yeah. I'm saying
disappeared.
that's the same. The 843 is the
Okay.
655 number.
But you didn't have a second one that this app might be on.
No. I only have this phone.
So, and let me explain, Martha, my understanding of what Letecia's asking is, how does she know, since I've said, if there's a bad guy or guys out there that did this to Gannon, that she can tell us where these guys are. And she's concerned for not only her safety, but the safety of her family.
Right.
And how can
He
she,
asked me would I trade my life for Gannon, and I said yes, but I said it's also other people. Like, how do I know that everyone else is not going to be? And how do I know that you guys aren't just trying to be like, whatever, if I walk you through anything or can help you with anything, I don't want to be just thrown somewhere, like being like, okay, well, you didn't tell me this, and I want to be able to help you and work together because I'm sure you have kids or grandkids or whatever. I do. I don't want to sound like I'm cold-hearted, and I'm just tired of being like the person chased instead of being able to have someone that actually have compassion to help me.
Well, I was a little bit confused when I was watching it because John talked about how they're the FBI and they're the premier law enforcement agency that could protect you, could protect your entire family. And they, if Gannon's alive, they.
Okay.
I can't make you any promises.
Right.
Because obviously there's a lot of information that you have that we don't.
Okay.
So there aren't any promises. I can't come in here and promise you anything regarding the court case or the arrest warrant or your involvement.
Okay.
But I can tell you what the number one priority is.
Right.
And it's to find Gannon.
Right.
And so if you were talking to some small law enforcement agency and they said, sure, we'll protect you, I mean, I can see how you would be suspicious of that.
Well, you guys are the lead agency. That's why I was
That's
asking.
it. Yeah. I mean, they're the most elite agency there is.
Oh, okay.
And so if there was a time for you to feel like that you could protect
that reporter, we can.
Because I know you have yours. That's what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
as a backup.
So if you want the recording turned off, you need to tell us really explicitly that that's your choice. Because the recording have been put into law so that there's not a debate where he says you said one thing and you said I didn't, right? So it's to protect the person being interviewed.
Right.
But if it's something that you...
It's not that I'm trying to, I just don't, it's just I wanted to have like a conversation with him, just him, and try to explain to him in complete detail about everything. Because I do want this, I want the help to the next level to find out where he is. I really do. You guys have looked, you went to GPSs and all this, but you haven't found Gannon because you're coming after me. And I understand you're going to say, well, this is what we have to go on, and I respect that totally. But it was the first time I ever get to sit down with people to actually to say, okay, this is what happened. This is what I know. Please help me. Because then I feel like if I don't, because see, I easily would be like, hey, just give me an attorney and call it a day. I really want. So do you think I want to waste time if I got resources when that's all I've asked for? I don't want to waste time.
And if there's a chance, it can be saved. Everybody wants that information. But the only people who can save them are the FBI. I don't want you to think that this is being broadcast to the whole world.
Right.
You know, there's another DA with me. There's no Suffolk County person.
Right.
And they're the ones, what the reason that we do that also is I might miss something, and I probably do. And so then I can go talk to them and say, what am I missing? And then also it protects you, because if I make a promise that I can't deliver on the FBI, then Martha could figure it, and then she would knock on the door.
But as soon as I give you information, what's going to happen is someone's going to say, well, you were involved with this person. You were cheating with this person. You were doing this. I'm just giving you scenarios.
But that's a lot better situation than you're in right
But
now.
what if I wasn't? That's my thing. And that's where the burden of proof, I can't I can't depend my life on the burden of proof to be involved with just someone thinking that I'm just a bad person. I did not hurt Gannon.
There aren't any promises I can make you about you. I can tell you that we're looking for the truth. And it seemed to me from listening to it that you had information, but I can't make you any promises.
But what I'm saying is, if you're saying to me, I have information, you're going to come and say, well, you should have given this information when I did nothing but attack.
But
That's what I'm saying.
You
You see what I'm saying?
You can't armchair quarterback yourself, though. You know what I'm saying? You can't look into the future and say, well, we're going to say this because you said that. If what Martha and I are saying are true, and that our only focus is Gannon, we don't care who leads us there, we just need Gannon. Then you are protecting yourself by telling us this. If you never give us this information, then you don't protect yourself. And then we have one person to prosecute for Gannon.
When our focus is who took him and who hurt him, not with when people came forward with information.
How do I know that? Because that's my biggest thing. I know you're saying that, but like whatever I can do to help, I can help you. But I'm saying, how do I know that if, let's just say it's whatever, I tell you a specific person, okay? Let's just say that, okay? Then my thing is, well, your thing is going to be like, well, you held this information for me and I'm having to utilize my resources, okay? And do all those things, not understanding that maybe sometimes there are people who are afraid of any other things going on.
Every day in my work, there are people who report things later than some people think they should. Every day. And we try to focus on the violent crime. And we certainly try to focus on the kids. I know that you want assurances and you want me to be able to say, you know, I will or won't do this. And I can't make you promises because I'm in the dark, right? It would be foolish for me to make you promises, but I have people who late report sex assault all the time. We have people who come forward years later. Our interest is in the truth about the crime. This is really all conversation I have. And I know that you wanted to have a frank conversation with them where you could really tell them. So unless you need me, I will step out.
But you're still going back in the room.
Would you
Unless
like us
turn
to
it off.
turn it off?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we'll turn it off.
How do I know that? Not that I want you to know
No.
anything. I want to be able to like really talk to them. Know that I can sincerely see in your heart you're going to help me.
I can bring you back there and you can see us turn it off. But the truth is, I could just turn it back on again.
I know.
I mean, there's a point where no one can verify everything you want.
Well, plus, that's her life. She has to tell the truth, just like I do you, when you don't want her to listen to you. You kind of have to look at logic here.
Okay.
I don't think Martha would throw away.
I don't want you to know. I want you to have all the information.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
it.
So are you okay with the reporting continuing? We just won't be monitoring.
No, I didn't. He said that we
You
wouldn't.
wanted to turn off?
He said I could just talk to him.
Okay. So we're just going to turn off the recording, and that's your choice. That's
Okay.
what you want, right?
Yes.
And so he controls the turning it off from here, or are
No,
they?
you'll have to ask.
Okay, I'll have to
find
do.
someone.
And so it's just going to get turned off,
Okay.
And then once it's done, then I'll come back out and we'll turn it back on.
and it'll be a conversation between the two of you, and it'll be like the way law enforcement.
All right.
Anything else for me?
No.
I'm gonna go get him. Turn it off.
No, it's fine. I just-
So that's that portion, Judge. Do you want to take the break now or go a little bit more?
Let's go a little bit longer.
Okay. Mr. Griswold.
Okay. Okay, yeah, let's go a little bit longer.
Some point, did you have a discussion with the defendant during this interview where you're talking about ransom?
Yes,
Why was that part of the discussion?
she had brought that up. I think it was on February 15th that Quincy Brown was demanding a ransom. And also, since we were talking about a group possibly having Gannon, I couldn't see another reason why someone would have him. He would still be alive without them asking for something in demand.
But why bring it up in that particular interview? Why confront her with that?
Just to change tactics a little bit and see if she will move somewhere else, really.
Okay. In that portion of the discussion, were you also talking to her about in ransom cases, kids don't actually turn out to be okay?
Yeah, and maybe I'd worked one ransom case, if that. We don't see that very often. Normally, our rule is the 24-hour rule, the 48-hour rule. The further away you get from an abduction, the less likely the child is going to survive. And so now we were at over a month.
Does that same hold true for a missing kid? So the longer you get away from the point that a kid goes missing, the chances of survival go down as well?
Correct.
Did the defendant bring up who she describes as an FBI agent named Barbara?
Yes.
What was your take on that portion of the discussion?
I did not know a Barbara who was involved, and I asked the Colorado Springs office if there was a Barbara working in the case, and they said no as well.
Okay. The next section, Judge, that I want to get into is about a 10-minute video. Do you want me to go into that, play it, and then?
Let's do that. And then
Okay.
have a break.
So preceding that, she's already sort of challenged you on, because you asked the question a particular way, that shows that she couldn't trust you as it relates to Quincy being in Mexico. Do you remember that part?
Yes.
Does she bring that up again about that's why I have a problem with trust?
Yes.
All right. And so I'm going to jump to 2 hours and 49 minutes and 1 second. So this is a 10-minute section, Judge. And then if we're going to go directly to break, maybe he can come down.
That's fine. You can step down. Thank you, sir.
And then it happened February 5th, I think. So what happened was I got all the messages when I logged back in for my ICOS. I got all the messages that were like just sitting there. And so I took that message and I forwarded it to President Albert. And I said, hey, can you get someone to like look into this? I said it could be just people, you know, sending random messages, or it could be creepers, you know, like people, whatever, being stupid, or it could be just in general, you know, the actual person. And so no one ever said anything to me about it. Then I get the Snapchat. Okay, so that's your.
Let me interrupt you for a second. Letecia, there's an 11-year-old kid. Again, we have to go back there. 11-year-old kid, injuries in the house. Now we know that. Taken. And you don't come to law enforcement?
This was a law enforcement
But no,
person.
there's
I
no
said,
Barbara. I mean, how did you get him from, except through your friend? You had
She
Amber
said-
from the FBI.
right, but she said that she worked with the FBI and she was going to send information. She said that she worked with Amber. I assure you, if you call Amy, you can get the number from her to find out what Barbara, who the Barbara lady was. And she was actually emailing her today.
But if you told them back then, and you trusted them with that information,
This is why
why are you not today? When
because
I'm,
no one has helped. I tried since February 5th. The 5th. Today's March. That's why you see I had such a problem with trust. It's because
I was there when you were talking to Amber, though. That was your chance. And
through
that's-
Amber.
Yeah, that's the
Right.
legit
So
FBI.
then, is that what happened when I was talking to Amber? I got a message back from the attorney who said not to talk to you guys because you guys A, weren't the lead agency or something like that, and then B, not to say anything else unless he was present. That was when I was trying to talk to Amber,
But why wasn't that with Barbara then?
because I gave it to my friend Amy who had this relationship with Barbara, like trying to check on her.
See, and again, this sounds like a lot of your calls
Mhm.
to where you're pointing fingers in different directions, but never giving specific things.
Right, I did.
Right now, I mean, if Gannon is somewhere and you can get us there, and he sent proof of life or a picture of Gannon or whatever else, it makes no sense for some man to have an 11-year-old child.
It wasn't that. It was because we thought it was someone playing games. And if someone was playing games, we were trying to say that that person would have been like obstructing or whatever. That was the whole point. Not somebody had him and they were like, here, come get it. My point was it was that we thought it was someone, hey, here's someone playing games. Could you find out who the person is?
Yeah, but do you see where that's going? And all your talks with Al. Those are distractions. Those take up time.
Yeah.
And Gannon's over here. Somewhere.
Yeah.
And you are misleading law enforcement.
No, I didn't mislead them.
Well, you're misleading anybody who would report to us
No, I didn't mislead any of them. Who did I mislead?
with all these other stories.
That was to Albert. It wasn't misleading wrong.
But you knew we were in the room. You
Yeah,
just said
because
that.
I wouldn't have said stuff like that if I was trying to mislead. I was just being whatever to Albert because he was making me upset. That's all.
The dad of a kid is not finding his son.
Because I'm
Because-
also the stepmother who helped him get the kids, and he wouldn't have gotten them without me. So yes, he wouldn't have.
You're willing to do that to Al, though.
No, I already had apologized to him and said that was awful for saying that to him out of anger. I had already done that.
But before we kick this thing in motion about all this protection and whatever, why haven't you said one thing, though, today? How in the world would he suffer a head wound on Saturday that
I
required...
didn't say it was a head wound that required
head
anything. I said
thing?
the head thing you're talking about when I said something to Albert. I said the head thing you're talking about. That's what I said.
So the bike accident thing?
You already trying to
No, the head thing talking to Albert.
never mind. I'll just wait until you are ready to talk to me with from beginning to the end, because I already said that is completely irrelevant to anything that what you're talking about. Completely irrelevant. I told Albert something else that was just story to be whatever to him, and it was wrong, and I already had apologized.
So
to
the
Albert.
things that you told Albert were that he was peeling these burns. Was that happening?
I'm not going to answer any more questions because you're asking me about things telling Albert out of being upset. There was nothing happening that I was telling Albert, nothing. I was literally just saying that to Albert because I was upset for him not standing by me and was figuring this out. This had nothing to do with me wanting to purposefully do whatever or tell you guys anything. That was not what it was.
But-
It was me being upset with Albert.
Let me go back to a kid missing is about as bad as it gets.
Oh, yeah.
I had a bank robbery 15 years ago to where a female went in a bank, she robbed the bank, she got the money, she came back to the car, and she drove away.
Mhm.
She was prosecuted for that. There were guys in the car with guns.
Mhm.
Okay, but she could have gone into the bank, said, lock those doors, those guys are making me do this.
Right.
You know, yours is now, we have 30 some days of Gannon missing, and you haven't talked to one law enforcement officer to say, I know where he is in the state.
I never did not try to talk to you guys. I never did not. No one ever, when I felt like I was getting like a completely like bam, fired by El Paso, no one ever reached out to me from FBI to like have a conversation like you did. No one ever did.
And you don't feel comfortable talking to El Paso why?
It's not that I don't feel comfortable talking to them. I just feel like from point A to point B, they have taken this approach, and you made even a comment about Lake and about this.
Right.
Because that's the approach that they've taken, as if it's just a person who is not alive. And that bothers me because I don't want
Well,
anyone
we're
to
actually
take
the
that
ones,
approach.
we're the ones that told them that, and that's statistically true.
what you should just become what.
From Gannon's age,
Mhm.
and from the amount of time that he's been missing, he is most likely dead.
But what I'm saying is, as a parent, is that maybe because you're like used to saying that or something, but is that something like as a parent you would want to hear?
No. What would you rather hear a lie? Would you rather hear statistically he's probably alive? When it's about I would say it's less than a 1% chance at this point.
But why?
Him being 11, they would have asked for something. If
But why?
kidnappings don't happen without a demand or
Mhm.
without it being a parental deal.
Parental will or a demand.
Yeah.
So you're saying that nothing else, nobody intervenes ever.
I've seen one at a time, and again, I've worked violent crime in Denver for 20 years, a
Mhm.
little over. And I saw one kid wander down the street. He had autism,
Mhm.
and this was up in Brighton. And a guy took him in the house. He had him for a day. The guy was mentally disabled as well, so we had two things happening at once. We had a kid with
Mhm.
autism who just started wandering, and then we had a developmentally delayed adult who was just playing video games with him for 24 hours.
Mhm.
But we ended up, the public said, there.
Mhm.
And I remember knocking on the door. He had made little blankets for the kid in there. The kid was playing video games, and nothing bad had happened.
Right.
That's the exception. I've been over kids have been dismembered, 10-year-olds.
That's awful.
And from the blood in the house, that's what I'm thinking happened. I'm not saying he
Dismembered?
just got dismembered in the house, but there's enough blood in there
Mm-mm.
that we don't think he survived.
Mm-mm. How could you have like possibly say that when you clearly see Gannon walking, leaving on Monday? That's
Leaving on Monday at 10, yes,
right,
correct.
right. Walking, okay,
But he comes back,
walking,
correct.
okay, walking.
Not walking well.
Totally fine. Don't encourage walk with like this. Yeah,
But he's back at 2.
back at 2.
Mm-hmm.
If that's what you say, then then this whole thing is like even pointless to even say anything, because if you're saying back at 2, but then you're also saying something about going legs and here and there and whatever, and it's like none of it is even making sense. It doesn't even make sense.
So
to
between
me.
the two Petco trips is when he disappeared then.
It doesn't make sense to me
Letecia,
to say
so let me tell you. I've been working for 14 years with a guy named Scott Kimball. He's our informant that went around killing the girls. You remember me telling you about him before?
oh yeah,
When we
yeah,
first started. Not our best day, because I have dads out there who still wonder if their daughters are alive.
Mhm.
Scott taught me one thing very well. There's only 2 people that can tell a story when someone either goes missing. Because one of these girls, Jennifer, is still missing. Like I said, we're pretty sure she's dead because it's been 14 years since anybody's seen her. But Scott told me, John, only 2 people can testify to what happened between me and Jennifer. And that's me, and that's Jennifer. And you're never going to find her.
he said that to you.
He did.
Wow.
So I've got to answer to his dad for the rest of my life. And I'll probably be answering to his dad after I retire, because Dad has my cell phone. Dad calls me on her birthday, on the day she went missing, on Father's Day.
How was he able to say that to you?
Because he's like, there's no other witnesses. So when I take a guess, and that's a guess that he came back home, That's because people that looked on the video said he probably did, or, you know, I don't have the information you have. And I hear you do that to Al by saying, oh, so that's what you think. Well, none of us know. You know.
Because I have
That's 3 hours. Oh, wait a minute. Did I stop it a minute too early? I think I did. My eyes are getting bad. We got one more minute.
All right.
to be that way. If I don't be that way, then no one's going to help me. I didn't hurt Gannon. I didn't.
That's fine, but right now you're the only one that was with me.
But I didn't hurt Gannon.
But how are you going to get past these charges without help? How does that work?
Without help?
Without you telling me. Like, again, it'd be like someone, I told you the story about Jennifer. If somebody knew where Jennifer was, and they're not telling me or Bob Markham, the
I
dad,
didn't say I knew where Gannon was.
you said
not-
you know he's okay.
No, I said as a parent, I'm never going to sit here and say, look at you and say, he's not okay. That's not what I'm going to do because I didn't do this. So why would I look at you and say that? Like I'm dead looking at you in the eye saying, I would never as a parent say that. No way could I ever say that because I love Gannon. I did not hurt Gannon.
I told
All right. Now it's really 3 hours, 1 minute, and 35 seconds.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we won't take our afternoon break until 3:35. If I can have, hold on just a minute. Okay, we're good. We're going to take our afternoon break. If I can have everyone back in the jury room and say 3:35, we should be able to start right on time at that point. Again, don't discuss the case among yourselves. Don't discuss the case with anyone else. All rise for the jury, please.
It's 3 hours, 26 minutes through 3 hours, 34 minutes. So about 8 minutes, Judge. I don't know if you want him to stay up for 8 minutes or not, on the stand or not.
Give me just a minute.
Okay.
Where's it? You can, it's up to you, Mr. Bruising, if you want to stay there for the 8 minutes or.
I'll go.
He's got a step skull, I think. I've got it 3 hours, 26 minutes and 0 seconds. So having skipped roughly 19 seconds, and then we're going to play through 3 hours, 34 minutes.
if someone presents us with evidence, then we just follow the evidence.
Okay.
Right now, you're the last person with
Okay.
Gannon.
Then I don't do bad things to people. I don't.
I don't think you do bad things to people.
I don't do bad things to anyone, and I didn't do anything bad to him.
I think something bad happened to Gannon, and I don't know of a way to get you to tell me about it.
Okay.
I tried through Al to get you to tell me about it. We've tried here.
Okay.
You came, and I think you have a defense mechanism. But I think your defense mechanism.
No, it's not no defense mechanism. I trusted you to talk to you because I thought you would
If you
help.
trusted me to talk to me, you would tell me where Gannon is right now.
I don't know.
Do you know where he last was, and it wasn't at the pet
Okay.
code.
Okay.
But see, you can't make me guess. That's
I'm
not
not-
fair to me.
Why would I
Not
keep
fair to
talking
Gannon.
if you're not going to help me?
You tell me how to help you.
I already did. I already did tell you. I told you how you could help. And,
Nobody holds a kid like that.
okay, if that's what you think.
No, I'm just saying,
Okay.
if the
Sir.
sun comes up in the morning, it goes down at night, every
Okay.
day. We have
Sir.
worked hundreds of these
If
things.
that's what you think. Okay. Me talking to you is not going to do anything else because all you're going to do is go think that you're going to get me to say something that I did that I didn't do.
That is not what I want.
Because I did not do anything to Gannon. Why would I hurt our child? I had everything in the world. Why? I have no motive. None. Don't have the first motive. Everything I wanted in my life, I had it. Why? Doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make sense a lot of the time what happens inside of a house.
And sir, I don't even know what you're talking about. All I can tell you is I didn't know. No reason to. In fact, to go on the record, I had a way better relationship with Gannon than I did with Lena. Way better. We're so much alike. We always like the same thing. We always have problems with our stomach. We always do all these things.
Do you know that there's almost a correlation sometimes between how much you get along with someone and how bad things happen in the house? I'm telling you that.
I don't. Well, maybe bad things happen in your house.
They happen in the house a lot more than they do out in public.
Maybe bad things happen in your house. But
Would it help if we showed you pictures of what we saw on the wall and by the bed? When you say nothing bad happened, you can't get around. Yes, Al, but we did not show Al that on purpose. He had to come get stuff out of the house. And he looked and saw the blood pool was about this big on the concrete.
Okay. And
That
then
is
what?
not from a little gash like that.
Okay, and then what? And then you showed this to him, or how did
No.
you see this?
He had to come get stuff out of the house. I wasn't even there that
Right.
day.
After you allowed people to stay in this house for a week.
I did not allow anybody to do anything.
Someone did.
Okay, that's not my call.
Okay. So,
So what I'm saying though is the wounds that you're describing to
Okay,
him, even
what-
when you're saying it
what-
doesn't,
sir, I'm going to tell you now.
when you say the head thing was Saturday,
What I'm telling you now is people were inside of a home living, and it was not me. So maybe you can talk to whoever allowed people to live in the home. Okay? Whatever you're saying that was done extra or whatever, maybe you can talk to those people who were allowed to stay in a home during this supposedly. Okay? That's what I think. Maybe you can talk to people who were.
you're saying that the injury to Gannon happened.
I'm not saying anything except I know you're telling me this stuff. And you're saying this about, how bad these were and these things were. All I can tell you is maybe you can talk to the people that were allowed to stay in the home during this time. During this time that you have this supposed evidence, people that were allowed to stay in the home and people that were allowed to walk in and out to see it, supposedly. Okay?
So Gannon was in, all these wounds happened after he went.
I'm not saying anything other than, sir, you are telling me, you just sit here on record and telling me that Albert went inside somewhere that you were supposed to have as a supposed crime scene.
Wasn't there for that. If you want to get an answer for you about who was with him,
That's not what I'm asking you. I'm saying for you. You as a professional, you would have allowed that, supposedly?
if he has to go get stuff. yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure that's
As long as the scene had been processed.
okay, process, sure. Okay. I'm
Why
sure
would
that's
we
how
not do that?
I'm sure that's how it works in this country. Doesn't it sound a little bit weird to you?
If the scene has been processed, no. I had a girl that was burned alive in a house in Bailey.
The thing was processed supposedly when people were still there day 1, day 2, day 3, and the thing was processed. Day 4, day 5, day 6. And the thing was processed.
You're saying that people were going in and out of the house, civilians, while they were processing the scene.
I'm asking you that because apparently you said the thing was processed, and then you want me to talk to you when I know that how shady that whole situation is. And you want me to give you answers for how shady that is. So you need to tell me in the scene that was processed, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, there was nobody going in and out. There was people living there.
Right.
Okay.
When they thought Gannon was still alive.
Okay. Living there. Okay. But you're saying the thing is processed because you, not you, but people surely were there. It's all on camera that there was crime scene people there while people were living there.
Of course, because they didn't know the severity of the scene. They
Okay.
just thought Gannon was ran away, like you said,
Okay.
to go see a
So
neighbor.
the point is, how am I supposed to put my trust and faith in any bit of the system like that when that was going on? How?
So you're trying to put faith in the system.
No,
Or you
I'm
gave
talking
them
to you. I'm talking to you. I'm saying
If you would have told police the very first night that he was taken forcibly, everything would have been different.
that's not forcibly. Okay, I said exactly what I said, which was he didn't come back at 6 o'clock.
If you would have said other people have him and they should not have him, it would have been different. You controlled the way that law enforcement responded.
I did. So now it's my fault that they
Yes, by you
Had
saying he's
people
walking
in
up to
there.
play with a friend.
had people in there doing a supposed crime scene, and now you have all this stuff after you let people live there. And now you want to look at me and say something. Sir, I did not hurt Gannon.
Okay, well, who did?
Did not.
Who did?
Did not. Just like all
Why
of
are
the
you,
other things.
why are you telling me you did not? I don't care if you did or not.
I'm just
Keisha.
telling you. Yes, you do
No,
care.
I don't.
Your father, you would care.
I care about Gannon. I don't care if you did it or not.
Sir, I didn't. Okay.
But you're saying you did it, but that doesn't help us find you.
Okay, well, I didn't do it. I didn't do anything. I would not have no motive, no
I'm
reason
not asking you about
to
motive
hurt
or
for
reason.
a child. No
Who
reason.
did?
No reason.
So we paused it at 3 hours, 34 minutes, Mr. Grusin. Mr. Grusing, at the beginning, you talked to or made a statement about a defense mechanism going into the other room. What was the purpose of you saying that?
Well, defense mechanism or misdirection. I was trying to, hone in on what happened that day. And neither I nor Special Agent Cohen found her story about Angel to be credible.
This tangent that we just witnessed happening where you're trying to get her to give who hurt Gannon, right? That challenge of that. And then she's talking about the scene instead. What was your impression of that?
It was yet another attempt to knock me off my line of questioning, another misdirection. As you can see, she's very effective at doing it. And I was telling her that the whole reason that law enforcement responded like they did was based on her initial report. But as she continues to talk over me and saying that because of the way she created Gannon just being at a friend's house, now that is a problem. It's yet another big hurdle that I've got to overcome to get to what happened to Gannon.
In that last clip that we played where it's the discussion about Angel, in some respects, did she actually revert back to Gannon is with a friend and didn't come home on time?
Yes,
So reverting back to the very original story that she told the police on January 27th.
right.
That statement that she makes in this particular portion, she likes Gannon way more than Lena. You remember that?
Yes.
When you went through those searches with her earlier in the interview, did you find any, or did you recount any searches, I should say, to the defendant about involving stepdaughters or Lena specifically?
No,
In fact, you read to her some of those searches. One of them, I don't like my stepson.
correct.
I don't like my stepson. Should I get a divorce?
Yes.
Did you ask her after this portion of the discussion about Quincy and Eduardo and the mountains?
I did.
What were you trying to get to there?
Well, as you could see with this story, it didn't take her long to get off of Angel and then divert to other people being in the house. And I wanted to just address the other stories yet again. And again, where we are at this point is we're still trying to find clues about where Gannon is. And I'd already explained to her that I think the closest she came to describing Gannon's injuries was when she spoke about Quincy Brown. So I decided to go back there and give that a try.
What do you mean by that? That the closest she was to describing Gannon's true injuries was when she was talking about Quincy Brown. Tell me what you're talking about.
Well, I never saw the full autopsy of what happened to Gannon. I only heard about it secondhand. But when she was describing the head, the hands, the knees, and the blood pouring, that's the most descriptive. She had come with us, with us meaning investigative team, even including here.
So that was the most descriptive as far as any potential injuries that she was willing to tell the investigation.
Correct.
So we're at 3 hours, 34 minutes and 50 seconds. We're going to play a 5-minute clip, 3 hours, 39 minutes and 50 seconds.
If you give me another name, I will chase that person. You tried Eduardo in the house. You tried Quincy Brown up in the mountains. Now you've tried Angel.
I never say that about a mountain.
Yes, you did. You were supposed to ride a bike
Oh,
up
I
there
didn't.
in the mountains with Quincy Brown. But
I never told you that.
you said you knew I was in the room.
I didn't say I knew you. I don't even know who you
Well,
were.
FBI,
Never know you were. I didn't never say FBI either. Not what I said.
law enforcement.
No, I said I know someone is listening.
That would be us.
No, it could have been anybody.
That's, I don't need to do that with you.
Exactly. There's no point of arguing that. You're not going to help me.
I think you could control this story by.
Sir,
Well, you are
nothing but
concerned about what other
respectful to
people
you.
think.
I've been completely respectful to you. And I have talked to you. I've been respectful to you. Been kind to you. I did all these things to you because that's who I am. So I was wasn't raised to be bad to
I
people.
don't think you're a bad person, but I think bad things happen all the time. I've seen it.
Why bad things have to happen?
Because an 11-year-old boy is not home and he's not hanging out with somebody.
Okay, sir. Okay. I'm glad that you think something so bad happens all the time. I'm sorry that you have to have this food up of nothing but no compassion and all that. I'm sorry for that. I really am. But I have no reason, none, to hurt anyone in my family. None.
Can you tell me why there's blood on the bottom of your shoes?
I don't
Gannon's
know.
blood. The shoes they were covered in the garage
In the garage?
or in the top of the washer or something.
People weren't, did you think I didn't walk around in shoes?
With Gannon's blood on the bottom.
That's got to do with anything.
It's
I've already told you, we were outside unloading stuff. What has that got to do with anything? We got outside unloading my car. I mean, come on. That doesn't mean somebody's a bad person and done something wrong. That hurt. No. Thing like that. To hurt Gannon, innocent, loving, help me out more than any person in the household. More than Albert. More than anyone. Help me.
I'm not saying Gannon's a bad kid.
No, help me. You know how much you'd be helping me with everything, pulling everybody else's slack. Who did it? And
And I think that's why this is so hard.
you're right. It's hard. You're right. It's hard because I didn't hurt you. To not have him helping me, that is hard. Very hard. Knowing that right now, sitting at home, Gannon knowing the situation, you know what Gannon would do? He would wait on me anything I would ask him just to make sure I was okay. Anything.
I wouldn't doubt that.
Oh, he would. Before even Albert would even do it. He would. If he was in here right now, he needed anything, me to ask him to do anything, he would do. So there's no intention, motive, reasoning, nothing. Again, nothing to hurt him in any kind of way. None. Nada.
You did say on the phone calls there was no premeditation involved.
Yeah.
You said,
I was saying to Albert, like he was, you're talking about when Albert was asking me that, I was simply saying if you were trying to get him or whoever was trying to get him to walk me down some pathway of whatever it may be, whatever that may be, come on, sir. I didn't wake up and be like, oh, my life changed today. That's not how it works in life. Bad people, whether you say do this or do that or do that or do this, they just do bad things
no,
to
it's
people.
not necessarily true.
Okay, well,
I told you good people do bad things. I think.
are you a good person?
Yes.
And you do bad things?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But if you had any key to telling us where Gannon is, you would tell it to us if you were a good person. Would you not? And
So pausing it now at 3 hours, 39 minutes and 50 seconds. At the very beginning of this, you said, if you give me another name, we'll chase that down. Have you ever tried to go back and count the number of different versions of stories this defendant gave during the pendency of this investigation?
No, I've not.
Is it too many to count?
I just haven't sat down and done it. It's
Yeah.
quite a few. Yeah.
And then variations of maybe like the Quincy Brown story has different branches of that story.
Correct.
The Eduardo story has different branches on that story.
Yes.
The Gannon was playing with a friend and didn't come home. Are there different branches to that story?
Yes.
And then we get the pregnant woman with a money in her belly story, different story.
Right.
Why did you tell her you don't think you're a bad person? What was the purpose of that?
It's hard to get someone to talk about something bad if they think the person talking to them already thinks they're bad.
Were you hoping that that would maybe loosen her up and she would give you some information?
Well, and yeah, I think she did not intend for this, whatever the awful thing was that happened to Gannon, to happen.
That's what you were trying to get her to
Correct.
believe you were thinking?
Yes.
Okay. Were you actually thinking that?
Yeah, I didn't know how all this started as far as I was only taking my role in this investigation. I was not the case agent. My role was just to speak with Letecia, take in as many facts as I could for these interviews. And so I was taking in what she was saying, and she was putting it back again to me with the foot injury on Saturday and now a head injury on Saturday. So we've got a progression of things happening. And I was just gathering from her what I can and passing it on to the investigative team.
When you said those things, you obviously didn't have Gannon's body had not been recovered yet.
That's correct.
Hadn't heard anything about an autopsy and the number of injuries that he had suffered.
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember asking her right after this clip that we just saw about where did you last see Gannon?
Yes.
Why did you want to go down that path?
In my experience, especially if you have a close relationship with someone who has disappeared, you are clearly able to articulate the last time that you saw that person. And so far in the phone calls with Al, and even with my time, she has not said what that very last sighting of him was.
Okay. We're going to jump to that section now. 3 hours, 40 minutes and 59 seconds. And we're going to play it through 3 hours, 45 minutes and 5 seconds.
Yes.
your argument isn't going to work, Letecia.
Arguing about what?
Your argument that somebody took him. You're not going to be able to tell that story.
Okay.
If you help us today
Okay.
find out where Gannon is, if you can, because I have 100% confidence that you can tell me exactly where you last left Gannon.
Okay. Now you're accusing me.
I'm just telling you what
Okay.
the research shows, what our investigation shows.
I'm
Then
glad that
listen.
you have research that.
It will look much better than you.
I didn't do anything. So what do you want me to look better at? I didn't do
Are you going to
anything.
tell me right now that the last place you saw Gannon was really him getting into an Impala,
Sir, I'm not going to say anything because you're not trying to help me.
finding Gannon would help you?
Oh yeah, I know. Don't
Wouldn't
you
it?
think that?
Then tell me where
Don't
he
you
is.
think that? Don't you
I know it.
really don't think that?
So tell me where he is and let me help you.
I don't know where he is.
Where did you last see him?
I'm not, sir. I'm not. You proved that you were not going to help me. Okay, you did. You proved you were not going to help me.
If you tell me where you last saw him, I can help you. I promise you that, Letecia.
I don't get it. Then her Gannon. I mean, I don't know how to like write that out, say it in 10 different languages.
What do you want me to say? You didn't hurt Gannon? Did you kill Gannon?
No. No.
Did you put Gannon somewhere?
No.
You didn't put him in a dumpster.
Dumpster. What?
because we've been tracking your car, we've been tracking, even when your phone is off, it can be tracked.
Good, sir. I'm glad.
And so we've been going through dumpsters all
Right.
through. Is Gannon in a dumpster?
Sir, you can go through
Just please.
whatever you
That
want
would
to go
save
through.
us.
Sir,
That would save us
I didn't do
hundreds of
anything.
days. Just
I
tell me if
didn't
he's in a
do
dumpster.
anything.
That's fine. But will you tell me if he's in a dumpster?
If I didn't do anything to him, how am I answering that question for you?
Whether it's Angel or
I'm
whoever
not
else.
answering the question for you. Really? You sit here and ask them that?
Because we want to find him. I would not ask you that question
I
if it
didn't
wouldn't help us
do
find him.
anything to him. Nothing. Didn't hurt, harm, kill, nothing. Again. Did not. Would not,
Where's the last place you saw him?
sir.
Please.
You've already asked me all these questions.
I know, but that's an easy question. The last place you saw Gannon, which can really help us find him.
Sir,
Why would you not say that? If you had nothing
Because
to
I've already tried to help you.
No, but if you had nothing to do, if you did not hurt, harm, anything, why would you not tell me the last place you saw him?
Okay.
Because it's a memory you don't want to look at.
Memory?
Yes,
Really?
I would think it's a memory.
Okay.
Gannon's been missing now for how many days? You know when you last saw him, but you won't tell the one agency that can find him.
You already said, you already basically lost my whole
That's
ability.
not a
to
true
trust.
story. That's worse than Quincy
Okay,
Brown.
all right, okay.
What about the pregnant lady with the money in her
Okay.
stomach?
Sure, okay.
Letecia, tell me the last place you saw him, and we can find Gannon, and that will help you so much in this case.
Oh,
Yes, it will. What do you think is going to help you now? If I walk out of here and we haven't got a lead on how to find Gannon, all you've got is the story of the stuff on the wall. You've got the blood. You've got blood all over the house. You've got
Okay.
blood on the bottom of your shoes,
okay,
and you've got about 7 lies.
okay.
If you help us find Gannon, that will help you tremendously. And yet you won't tell me. Why? Yes, I will. I've just
So we've got it now paused at the end of that section, 3 hours, 45 minutes and 5 seconds. Why'd you throw out the dumpster?
There had been searches in dumpsters. And at that point, since we had no leads, I was hoping maybe she could at least, I was being truthful there, saying, can you at least narrow our world on what we're searching at this point? Because we didn't have a lead on where Gannon was.
You were just trying to get that from her at that particular point.
Yes.
Do you remember going from that discussion into asking her about any mental health issues that she was dealing with?
Yes, I believe I asked her a second time after asking her initially.
Right. And so that's what we're going to get into next. And that's at timestamp 3 hours, 50 minutes and 20 seconds. And it lasts for almost 2 minutes. So it goes to 3 hours, 52 minutes and 18 seconds. So I'm starting it at 3 hours, 50 minutes and 20 seconds.
The one, not the one.
You know, if I asked you ahead of time if you're having anxiety or depression or stuff like that.
Anxiety, depression, any of those things. Because to be honest with you, that's it.
So have you been, you said Gannon's been seeing counselors. Have you been seeing counselors?
Right, about teaching, one time. Maybe she did it too, because she was going to give the emotional support animal.
That's it.
Yeah, it was the 2 times on base. And we talked about not wanting to be in teaching anymore and all that route. Stress on the job. That was what we talked about.
You had searched a little bit on the suicide stuff.
What suicide stuff?
Was that you or was that just random heat stroke?
Suicide? I don't even think.
Have you ever thought about suicide?
Who?
You.
I'm not thinking about suicide.
What the suicidal person might say. That's what I was.
Yeah, because I have someone in my family before that had said that to me, and I've looked up the information.
That's not you.
Wow.
Take
A lot
that.
of things in their family go on too, that you really want to look up and be like, oh, this is going on. How they're dealing with this. No.
Okay.
So when you're asking her about any mental health issues, did she indicate basically only 2 times?
Yes.
And what was the reason that she was seeing this counselor?
Counseling on the base regarding her teaching, I believe.
Okay. When you left the room here, what were you doing?
I believe she asked if she could make a phone call, and plus I wanted to check with our team, so I wanted to see, what was going on with them.
Okay. When you came back in the room, did you start to ask her about the board that was found with blood on it?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to jump to that. So we're at 3:55 and 0 seconds. That period of time in between. So when we stopped at 3:52:18 till when you're about to come back in the room at 3:55 and 0 seconds, was she just in the room by herself?
Yes.
Was she acting normal?
Yes.
Any concerning behavior from her?
No.
Okay, we're going to start it at 3:55 and go through 4 hours, 6 minutes, and 11 seconds. So a little over 11 minutes.
Thank you.
At some point, we'll ask you how many steps it takes to get back and forth.
Restroom or anything?
I just wanted to call to see that Harley got home.
She did. Yeah, they talked with Harley, they talked with Dee Dee, they talked with Laura. There were search warrants at Laura's house, Dee Dee's house, your van. I think that's it. So yeah, they got Harley back home.
Harley Dee Dee?
Yeah, because I thought that I met you out of the car and you said you'd like Dee Dee to be the guardian in between time.
Okay. Why are you sitting in their house? I mean,
Because she stayed there.
I'm saying like they're not in trouble, are they?
No, neither nor Dee Dee. I'm asking you something wrong. Teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I do look that. And whether you did this or not, it doesn't matter. The reason they asked me is to come find what happened again. And if I can't get past, if I can't prove a story, whether you tell it to me, Al tells it to me, whether I'll pass the sheriff's office. Again, I don't take anything true until I can prove it. With all the evidence that they have, the reason why it took so long is the district attorney wanted to wait and wait and wait till they made sure they could win in the courtroom. And I've done nobody homicide before. They have more on this case than we do on most of them. I don't want you to be the way you can help yourself out of this thing is to give us something, even though it's very
You just said you have what you need, so
We
why do you need to keep asking me?
because you don't want to show me anybody else.
But if you have what you need, why do you keep asking me?
Because our goal is to find Gannon. Our goal is not to prosecute you. That is the district attorney's job. We're investigators. And like you've just seen, I do a poor job about half the time because I have to guess. Because as much as we try to track you with your cars and your phones and whatever else, there are gaps. We do have, like I told you, the blood in the house. We do have the blood on, do you know about the board that was thrown in the forest? Letecia?
Oh. What? I'm sorry, sir. What?
The board that had Gannon's blood on it that was thrown in the forest.
So all right, so what?
You got your DNA on it.
Okay.
But then how do you explain stuff like that and then turn around and say, but then turn around and say, I don't know.
I lived in the house with Gannon. I was Gannon's main caretaker. I wouldn't be surprised if everything I done didn't involve Gannon. There, okay, well, see, whatever.
That board was from the house, and then it's up on by Highway 105.
Forward from the house. I've already explained to you about any kind of stuff that would have been from the foot. I've already told you that, and I don't know what you.
But
I mean-
Gannon didn't go throw it up there.
Okay, so now there's someone threw it there. So now someone threw it
Or
there.
dropped, or whatever. How did that board get up there?
Sir, now you're going on about the
Well,
board.
Letecia,
And Albert already called about this board. 'Cause you were there, right?
Yes,
And the sock and all this stuff, right?
Stauch had nothing to do with it,
Okay, but yeah, he said it's all.
but he did say it's off.
Right.
But the board is true.
Sir,
The board was right where your T1 was,
sir, pick one.
because we tracked it.
You could have gotten all that from me easily. You just got into the app. It's not a difficult thing.
Right. But if you track from where your T1
But now-
went, and you look at where that
Pick
board was.
one. And now, okay, so this is why it's so, like, backwards. So now my Tiguan, but I was driving the truck, and then now my Tiguan, and now, I mean, next, and then you tried on the rental car, but then
No, you had 3 different cars.
there's
And,
proof on the rental car that I didn't even get to drive it. So I mean,
right, there's low mileage on it. But we don't know where you went, because you had your phone.
my phone, watch on.
Yeah, but you had your phone.
But the
But the
watch,
watch is up in the forest somewhere, isn't it?
no, that's not for us. You guys have
Sure.
your watch. It's at El Paso Detention Center.
That's the watch there. I thought you had an iWatch.
That is, that's where the watch was at.
Okay.
My watch says it's clearly sitting in El Paso County.
Okay. But your phone was off for a couple of days.
A couple of things.
The 27th, it was off when you were between the Petcos.
But I had my watch on.
Right. But what I'm
The
saying,
watch tells you where you go. I mean,
Yeah.
it's mirrored.
yeah, but I'm telling you, we have holes in our investigation, and you can help us with that.
Or I didn't even drive my car anywhere really, other than just going to meet friends.
You drove the Tiguan up there.
Yeah. Other than to meet friends, yes.
So who do you meet? Our friends. That can be a lead we can help find Gannon with.
You guys already know all my friends, so maybe
No, we don't know those up there.
that should be the ones that you really know.
We don't know the ones up there, I guarantee you.
And like the guy said, oh, tire pressure and all this, then you would have saw where if I stopped anywhere or done whatever.
Can't you tell me though?
Sure.
Instead of
So you
Instead
want
of
me to
making
do
me-
that? Like, I've already had to tell you everything personal about our lives. You have everything personal.
I don't have what friends you saw up there on 105 where that board is.
Look, I'm not going to admit to any kind of board.
I'm not saying you need to. I'm just saying tell me who your friends are up there and we can go talk to
And
them.
my Tiguan wasn't even driven that way until
Okay,
like,
so maybe it was
later.
how much later?
I don't even know. Before they took it.
Okay, so was the truck up there?
Took up where?
Up that 105 area.
Oh, good. How's I just this?
But you,
I was going to Castle where he said this.
but is that where the board was? It was in the back
Sir,
of
I
the
don't know
truck.
where the board was at because I don't know. I really don't know. That's like you're asking me a question that I really don't know. the
So
answer
but we have a board up
Okay.
there where you were driving
to. Okay.
with Gannon's blood on it.
Okay.
With your DNA on it.
Okay. So
So
my DNA, which would be what?
skin stuff.
Okay, my skin cells, which I lived in a home, if that's what
Correct.
you're telling me.
Yeah.
And I've already told you that there was all this wood in the garage.
Yeah, but you never told me that you took a piece out of the truck and flung it up there. Put it, just flung it. And again, Letecia, I think you get mad when I say a verb or something, where whether you placed it, flung it, dropped it, hit it, I don't know. But all I know is that our FBI evidence response team recovered it
Okay. Did you check everybody else in the house?
as far as for their DNA.
No, not the DNA to see if they put it there. Because, you remember, these are the people that were in the house when I wasn't there. Did you check on them?
The people in the house.
Yeah, did you check the people in the house?
You mean the crime scene people?
No, I mean the people that I'm sorry, phrase that, because you don't like you, that was allowed to stay there when all this stuff you're talking about would have been there. Okay?
Correct.
Did you check all these people?
As far as their DNA
No. Did you check to see if any of them did this?
drove and threw that wood up there,
Did you check them?
their GPS, their phone.
No. Did you check them? Because that is complete, doesn't matter. So you mean tell me you checked Veronica's GPS and her phone?
Judge, that's now paused at 4 hours, 6 minutes and 11 seconds, and it's 4:49.
Is this a good place for break?
It is, Judge.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will have our weekend break. Sorry. We will have our weekend. easy for me to say, we will have our weekend break. Again, you must not communicate with others or among yourselves about the trial as it is going on. You must not do any independent investigation or research about the case. You must not discuss the case among yourselves in any way during the course of the trial. You may not discuss the case among yourselves until after you have heard all of the evidence and you begin to deliberate on a verdict. That'll be after the closing and instructions and all of that. In fairness, you must keep an open mind throughout the trial, and you should reach your decision only during your deliberations at the end of the trial. Do not permit anyone else to discuss the case with you or near you. If anyone, including one of your fellow jurors, attempts to do so, report that fact immediately. Do not talk with any witnesses or with the defendant or with the attorneys in the case. You cannot talk to them and they cannot talk to you, even casually. You are permitted, however, to explain to family, friends, and employers that you are on a jury and inform them of how long the trial will last. You cannot say anything else about any aspect of your experience until you are released from jury service. Do not communicate about the case with anyone else in any way, including in person, by telephone, cell phone, computer, the internet, or any internet service. This means you must not email, text, instant message, tweet, blog, or post any information about this case or about your experience as a juror on this case on any website, listserv, chat room, blog, or website. You must not read, review, or accept any communications in any form from anyone regarding this case or cases like this. This applies whether you are here, at home, or anywhere else. Do not read about this case in the newspapers or on the internet, or listen to any radio or television broadcasts about the trial. The law even prohibits you from consulting a dictionary to clarify terms that may be used in this case. With that, have a good weekend. Enjoy the weekend. I don't think it's going to be as nice as it was last weekend.